think the pressure of wanting to get it right. And I see that more, like you said, in the younger generation, and that they do read so much and trying to do everything by the book. And sometimes I think we should just throw the books away. So
welcome to The Way of the Muse, a podcast for women who want to create richness in every area of their lives, from business and career to lifestyle, relationships, family, purpose, and fulfillment. I'm Gigi Sage.
And I'm Makena Sage. We're a mother-daughter coaching team, and combined, we've spent over 4 decades helping people create their best and most fully expressed lives. If you're ready to step into your bigger dreams with ease, fun, and flow, you're in the right place. Let's get into the episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome back.
hello,
Hi, Gigi.
McKenna. Hi. How's San Diego weather?
Gorgeous. It's going to be like
I bet
75 degrees today.
Nice.
Yeah.
Here it's like 80, I think.
Wow. Getting a very warm winter there, and except for when you have snow and freezing, right?
Yeah,
all over the place in Texas. Well, welcome back, everyone. We are still in our launch month. In fact, we just launched last week our book, The Wisdom That Raised Me. Yay!
Thank you all, everyone that's bought it. It's amazing. Thank you. We so appreciate it. Yeah,
it's been so fun.
And I think that's it is the topics of mother and daughter, and I think we should share too, McKenna, like how is it for you being a new mom?
How is it for me? I love it. Yeah. I mean, of course, there's all kinds of challenges and ups and downs, but she's so fun. We have a great time together. Yeah, she's so sweet, and I really love it. It's been great. Yeah, one of the posts I wrote that I'll put out this week on social media is just about birthing 2 babies in 1 year. A book and a baby. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Awesome.
Absolutely.
You want to share our topic today?
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about raising daughters while healing ourselves. So what does that look like when you are a mom raising a daughter or a son? Really, it could be both, but we're going to make it more about mothers and daughters. And, I think there's people are like, well, I don't have it all figured out. But I think there's this expectation from kids, especially as they get older, that you should have it all figured out or something like that, right? That you're the parent and, you should have things together. So that's what we want to talk about today. So Gigi, do you want to start us off kind of sharing about, you've been a mom for a lot longer than I have, and you have 5 children. So tell me about this.
Yeah. So like you said, I think there's this myth that moms, when you have a baby, you're supposed to have it all figured out. You got it together and you're supposed to know what to do. But, come on, that's why we have issues with our parents, right? Because they don't have it figured out, right? And none of us have it figured out. Some people are more equipped and are at different stages in their life, but a lot of times, parents just, I think mothers and fathers, they're doing the best they can, right? And there's a lot of pressure on mothers, since we're talking about that today, that we're supposed to make all the right decisions and know the right things to do. And we just really have no idea often, because if you think about it, most of us are still learning or healing or evolving. I had my first baby when I was 18 years old. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
So I knew nothing at all. And, everything was just, I had to figure it out, right? And do the best that I could. So I think that's no matter where you are, at what age, because McKenna, you're having your first one at a much later years, right? 20 years later than I did.
Yeah, pretty much 20 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as you were talking. I was just like, and I think the pressure is even higher now in some ways because people wait longer a lot of the time, and that's not everyone. But then I think the idea is like, you should have it all figured out or have done all your healing or be somewhere so you can be this kind of quote unquote perfect parent. I don't know. People put a lot of pressure on it these days. I think even more maybe than they did when you were first raising your kids, right?
Absolutely. Because we've done so much with personal development, and I think there's a lot of consciousness around parenting, and it's awesome. I think it's amazing how we have evolved and that we're able to take that time, and that younger generation is so much more conscious about the way they raise their kids. But I often see it sometimes it's too much, because it puts a lot of stress also on the parents and the kid, that everything's supposed to work perfectly, and we all know relationships and families and life, it just doesn't work like that, and so yeah, but just I think the pressure of wanting to get it right, and I see that more, like you said, in the younger generation, and that they do read so much and trying to do everything by the book, and sometimes I think we should just throw the books away. So
it's definitely stressful. I haven't even read any books, but I still Instagram and people talking, and there's so much information, it's like I purposefully did not read the books, but you still get inundated with it. Yeah.
I don't want to say the books are bad, because I think there's a lot of great information out there and awesome parenting books. I do believe, though, that again, you got to just get in there and go for it and try, because my kids always ask me, well, what did you do, or how did you know how to do it? And I'm like, I don't know. I just did it, right? Because I didn't have a choice. And so I think it's just important to take the pressure off everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh, I have to remember that all the time. So mothers, I think the thing here is, how can you let go of the pressure, like you're saying, of getting it right, no matter what age your kids are, whether they're young or grown, there's still that pressure there, I think. And sometimes as they get older, as we said, the pressure starts to come from the kids. And that's important to be aware of if that's happening, and see if you can let yourself off the hook there. And then daughters, I think that's for you, that's something Gigi and I have really talked about, and we talk about in our book, is how can you let your mom off the hook? I think if you were a grown woman listening to this and you're holding a lot of stuff with your mom, it doesn't mean you condone everything or you forgive everything necessarily.
Agree,
that's your choice, or agree. But can you just let it go, because you have the mom you have, and what's the relationship you want to have with her moving forward, I think is so much of the question. Do you want to spend the months or years of holding all of this, or could you forge a new kind of relationship? And I think that's a little bit for you and I, Gigi, of what one of the things this book is about. It goes into much more than mothers and daughters, but it is about, a different way that mothers and daughters can be with each other.
Right. Yeah, because you're 37, and I mean, what are we, 30 years apart? 30 years apart.
30 years apart.
Yeah. 30 years apart. Yeah. And in this time, it's important, like I told you, really at this point, it's more to develop a friendship. Of course, I'm your mother. Absolutely. Because what happens is often daughters will put their mothers into a role, and it's a mother role, right? And it's like, you're a mother, so what does that mean? You should do this, this, and this. And it really holds mothers. And think of it, because you're a grown woman now, and I'm in a different stage of my life. And if you hold me just as your mother, then I can't, be wild or sexy or free or live the life I want to live, because I've got to stay in the role and act like a mother. And I see this all the time, and it's innocent. People don't understand they're doing it. And it's because we have this thing with being a mother, is this maternal, this certain kind of energy. And, at a certain point, like you said, as you get older, you got to set your mama free, because otherwise it limits her. And it also really starts to limit you and your own understanding of womanhood and what's possible for you, because you're going to be in that position, 10 years, 20 years from now.
If you choose to have children, yes.
If you choose to have children. Yeah. And my kids have been awesome. I mean, a couple of times, and, some of the girls have put me in that position, and even my son, but I'm always working to bust that one up. So
You are indeed. I would have to agree with that one. She is always stretching the edges of
Yeah,
what's
if I feel that, I'm like, what can I do to shock my kids? So,
I'll share a little anecdote about this. I don't think my husband would mind that when you and I first, when he and I first got together for the first few years, I would say he really struggled with this because you were his mother-in-law, right? And
right.
he was like, he had this fixed idea of this is what a mother-in-law is, and this is how a mother-in-law behaves. And Gigi just defies all of that all the time. And he was just like, it was like, does not compute. Like,
Right, right.
how
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
these two things reconcile? And it took many years for him to finally just let that go. And I
That's
have to say, when he did, it really opened up your relationship.
mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 All my son-in-laws to some degree have tried to do that. And I'm just like, we're not going there because I don't want the mother energy. I also don't want the mother-in-law, right? What do we hear about mother-in-laws, So,
Yeah,
I have
usually not
mother-in-law.
positive.
Yeah. So I'm always trying to, and I told him, I remember one time I was giving him some coaching and I was cussing up a storm and he said, I started laughing. And I said, what's wrong? And he said, this is so hard for me. Like, you're my mother-in-law. I said, do not think of me as your mother-in-law. Think of me as your coach or as your whatever, but don't think of me as your friend. Yeah. So
yeah, mentor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what's really happened. I think you guys have
Yeah.
developed into where you can come in and be the different roles for him, like you are for me, right? You can be the coach, you can be the friend. And that's so much, again, of opening up the relationship. So that's in the case with a son or a son-in-law, but it's the same thing with mothers and daughters, right? Or mothers and sons, is when we, again, pin each other into these roles versus, like you're saying, we let each other be wild and flawed and, sexy and free, all the things, whatever that person is or wants to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's some things we wanted to talk about that go the other way, right? So like expectations that mothers put on their daughters as well. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to share those?
Yeah. I mean, we were just talking about a lot of times it's like mothers want their daughters to be a certain way or sons again too. And they have this idea about either maybe who they were when they were young. So they think, oh, well, this is how you are because they knew this child as a little baby and a little girl and that's how they see them. But then the daughter grows up and maybe is a very different kind of person or just has evolved. And that can be really hard for moms to reconcile, to come to terms with like, wait, who is this person?
Right.
Yeah. Or I think on the flip side, it's often that they had certain expectations or desires for what they wanted their daughters to be or how they wanted them to turn out. And if they don't fit into that, that can be hard as a parent.
Yeah. That is so true. And I see this with moms a lot, because, and again, we want the best for our kids and we see their potential. And so I think it's often difficult, like you said, if they don't go a direction that we really feel that's the right direction for them, then it's difficult to watch them go another direction and sometimes struggle, where as a mother too, sometimes you do see things that would be the right way. You know what I'm saying? And other times it's that maybe your daughter grows into somebody completely different and creates a very different life than you thought she would. And that acceptance of it instead of judgment of it is so, so, so important. Yeah.
I think that really works both ways because if I think about it in people that I watch in, mother-daughter or parent-child relationships where either one thinks the other should be different than they are.
Right.
Even though it's coming from a great place, they're like, I want what's best for this person. And I see that if they just did this or if they just made this change, they would be so much happier. They would be, but that, like we teach in our work, is like that immediately creates resistance in the other person. If they feel you want them to change, it's like, that's the doorway into a lot of conflict and a lot of resistance.
Right.
But what's interesting is that I think again, this works both ways, is if you can really, like you're saying, accept them as they are and really let go of trying to get them to be some other way, that actually over time can create trust and open a doorway to maybe you being able to share something and them being able to really hear it in a different way.
Mm-hmm. And
Wouldn't you
then
say?
also, yeah, I think so, very much so. That acceptance and, because too often families get together and then they agree on, right? This person should be the other way. And that's just not healthy. It's so much healthier if you get curious about, wow, they've chosen this certain direction. They're doing these certain things, and you get in there. And like you said, you're curious and accepting. And I think it does open up the opportunity then to talk deeper. And it also opens up the opportunity to have different kinds of relationships too,
Yeah.
because if you think about it as human beings, and, I was a mother, basically had kids home for 40 years because I started so young and I have so many children. And that's a long time, right? And then going out of that and into becoming myself more and more without children, and then we have so many different kind of lifetimes to live, because if you live a long time, you're going to grow and evolve into all kinds of people. You're going to still have your essence, right? And so it's that allowance of the people you love and your mother or your daughter to, like I said, be curious and connected with them on their journey as they go through all these ups and downs and changes.
Absolutely. And you touched on something there that we've talked about before on the podcast, but it's a really important point about not labeling each other or agreeing with each other in families. Like, let's say you have siblings and you all kind of have this agreement, like, oh, mom is this way, right? Oh, she's so whatever. She's so, I don't know what the words could be, right?
Yeah.
So if you hear yourself saying those kinds of things with your siblings, or maybe you agree with your mom on the way a sibling is, I mean, it works all directions, right? Then that's really something to check yourself on, because it creates a not a great dynamic in the family, and it doesn't allow that person, like we're saying, to really be who they are and to really grow and evolve. And that's often where the source of a lot of conflict is in families. Yeah.
And that's a lot of times why people don't want to be with their families, right? Because it's the one place that you go when people think they know you. And so they're not curious, oh, Gigi's like this or Makena's like this. And when we hold it as a judgment, then we go there and, we did talk about this on another podcast, and you really have changed and you're in a different place, but then people view you this way. They hold this view. It's hard to keep that because these are people that have a lot of influence over you because they know you so well.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what mothers and daughters need from each other, at least from our perspective. Of course, every person is different, right? But I think what I see that daughters really need from their mothers, or really want, is, of course, their listening and their presence. So I think that's in a really healthy mother-daughter relationship. It's great to have that, where you can really, I think, listen to each other. But I think daughters are really craving a certain kind of listening, like a listening without giving advice necessarily, or, just like really being present and hearing what you're going through. And love and belief is a huge one. I know that's been a big one for me, is like, of course, your love, but also belief, belief that you can do what you set your mind to, belief that you are an incredible human, just belief in you. And I think in an ideal world or an ideal relationship, it would be that you could also not only not label your daughter or see her like she should be some way or what have you, but actually see her as she really is. Like, who is your daughter at her best? Who's her best self? And then remind her of that when she forgets, because we all in life go through times where we forget who we really are. And this is so much, Gigi, of what you've done for me. And that's a lot of, some of the stories we share in the book and everything, is like really helping me become the woman I was meant to be. And that's by helping me connect back into who am I really? Who was I before the world told me who I should be? What am I dreaming of? Who do I want to be? And then in that, you gave me a lot of kicks in the butt along the way. And I think that's really important. If you have the right kind of relationship and you have a lot of trust, that can be a great thing in a mother-daughter relationship too. Is like sometimes you go, all right, you gotta do this, or I see this for you. Not you have to, but kind of pushing them in the direction of what they really want anyway, but they might be scared to do. And I guess the last thing would be just like letting go of control, though, ultimately, that, as a mom, again, you can't control your children. I mean, you can try, especially when they're younger. You can be there and provide guidelines and support and guardrails, so to speak. But as they get older, especially, you've got to let go. But don't withdraw your love. I think that's the important thing, is give them space, but don't withdraw. Because if you pull out, then it doesn't feel good, right? So, yeah. What do mothers need from daughters, Gigi?
Well, I think the same thing. Your listening and presence. The ability to share where you are in life, and that again, as you get older, the more kind of like friendship, of really being there for them. And love and belief, so believing in who we are and what we can do, because again, after our kids are gone, it's a very vulnerable time for mothers. And I think encouragement from children to go for your dreams and do what you want is huge, right? I know that my kids are very much like that, and it's very empowering.
That's a great point, because I think a lot of kids don't grow. Again, we're talking about they put their mothers into this role, but I think they also don't stop to think like, wait a second, like if you're grown and you're out of the home, your mother still has a lot of life ahead, hopefully. And like, not just thinking about her as like, oh, she had her career, she raised us kids, or whatever her path was, right? But like really going, oh, wait, like, yeah, what does she want now? And can you support her and empower her to get that, or to go for it? I think that's a really cool development of a relationship.
Yeah. And I think a curiosity about who they're becoming, just being interested instead of like telling them always what they should do, like being curious about who are they becoming, who are they now, right? And then the big one is acceptance of who they are, because I think that's often mothers feel, as you grow as a daughter and you're in the middle of your life and your kids and everything, it's hard sometimes because you're in that very active stage of your life. And so we project that on maybe our mothers and think, oh, she should be doing this, this, and this. And so I think it's really important to have that acceptance of where she is, who she is, and then also of the acknowledgement of the time and the years that she put into raising you, like that acknowledgement, because I think sometimes that gets forgotten from the transition of your kids being raised, them going out, starting their lives. We forget that piece. I was looking at pictures. I think I might have brought this up in another podcast of, think of it, 5 children and all these different pictures of different decades, and oh my gosh, how many birthdays and all these different things. And it was like, so much life was lived. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And if I sit here today, none of us really even think about that,
That's 90 birthdays.
Yeah.
Just from 0 to 18 with 5 kids. That's 90 birthdays that you.
Yeah. And then you think of the Christmases and you think of the Easters, and we never go back and go, wow, this is what we've done. And I think also the acknowledgement from our children is huge, because then it puts, it kind of validates us for what we've done and where we are in our life. Right. And then the other one is, developing, like I said, as you get older, that friendship, and then carving out time for your mother. I think that is so, so important.
Yeah. And I think for both mothers and daughters again, it's like maybe you imagined you would have this certain, I don't know, future together, or this certain way, like we said, that one person would be or the other person would be. And I think there's something to really like, if you have to grieve that and let that go and like really look at what's here now, who are you both now, and who are you both evolving into, or what do you want for your relationship? I think that's just so much, is just like pulling away those layers to get really real and present to who's here in front of you. See them as a human, not as a role, and then go, what do we both want for this relationship? You know, that's a powerful question. If you could have that conversation with your mother or with your daughter, like assuming they are grown, and, you know, maybe even if they're young, you can ask them, but like, what kind of relationship do we want to have now and moving forward? I think that's a really
that's a great question. Yeah.
Great question to consider with one another, because it could open up, there might be just all kinds of things that both of you haven't shared, or things you have desired, and they might align more than you think, or something might surprise you. So I think it's just the encouragement to open up a dialogue here if you can. Yeah. We have some really great exercises, by the way, in the book, which again is not only about mothers and daughters. It just happens to follow a lot of our relationship. But there is the chapter on healing the mother and father wound, which is chapter 2. And then the final chapter of the book is on motherhood, chapter 10. And so we have exercises in there that are really beautiful healing exercises that don't necessarily need to involve the other person. So that might be something too. You know, if you feel like that sounds great, but I've got a lot of stuff with my, especially my mother or my daughter, then that would be something to check out as well. So I think I said the name at the beginning of the episode, but it's called The Wisdom That Raised Me: A Daughter's Journey into Wholeness, Wisdom, and Womanhood. And you can find it on Amazon. So Gigi, I think we've talked a lot about the role shifts, right? Of how that can change in a relationship. But I guess, do you have anything you would say to moms, I mean, or daughters, but I'd say start with moms, about healing in front of your children, so to speak, like healing while you are, because we all are on this path of growing and healing ourselves and becoming, you know, let's say better humans, hopefully, as we get older. So if moms are not going to like try to have it all figured out in the same way, but if they are on this kind of messy journey, then how can they do that while they're raising their kids at the same time?
I think just to be real, you know, be your human self. Don't try to put on a facade and look like everything's fine or you're all together. I think being vulnerable, like really sharing what's going on, say what's true, let them, you know, you want to share in such a way that your children sense and feel that, yeah, what's going on with you too. You know, I was talking to a friend recently. Can't remember. Oh yeah. We were talking about Christmas, you know, and we were talking about, just how it's so interesting how the dynamic changes, right? We have Christmases with our children all their lives, and we give them presents and presents and presents and make sure, you know, and then we become older, and then our kids have their kids and everything, and then we're still doing presents, and we make sure the stockings are there and things like that. And then she said, you know, always make sure there's gifts in all the stockings. She said, and I don't think anybody's ever put a gift in my stocking. And it's so interesting because it's kind of like for mothers, sometimes there's just this expectation. Yeah. And so in that, I think it's really, really important for moms to be able to share and say, hey, I would like this too, or, you know, I want to be involved, or, you know, because I also see this a lot of times that moms get pigeonholed into being a mother, especially like for me, I have 4 daughters, right? And if we do things together and then I have to be in the mother role, then I can't have fun like my kids. But that's not true. My kids don't do that with me. But I think a lot of times mothers think they have to act this mother role out. Yeah. And so I think it's so important this is part of the healing, is to be your crazy self and have fun and do not worry about what they think, And yeah.
Yeah, and for
You
the
wanna say
daughters
something?
listening, I think that's interesting to reflect on. Like, are there places where your mom has always done something?
Mm,
Again, this is more for grown daughters, but she's always folded the stockings, even for you or your grandkids or whatever. She's always cooked the Christmas dinner, or she's always done whatever. And it's like, have you guys reevaluated that? Have you
mhm,
looked to see, is that something she still wants to do? Or is that something you want to do?
right.
Or, and she may want to continue to do it, but I think it's really interesting to I don't want to say renegotiate, but reevaluate some of these
Reevaluate.
things
Yeah.
as you do go into different stages of life, as like, what do you both want in these areas? And yeah, that's an interesting point there. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
and I think the last one is to moms, when you mess up, apologize and repair. I think that's so important, is not getting in holding grudges, just get in there. If you screw up or you do the wrong thing, because we often do, or we say the wrong thing, or we are trying to direct our children, it's just, once you've been doing that, it's really hard to stop. And if you do it, just go to your kids and really say, hey, I'm sorry, and repair it. And don't let time be spent where, yeah, you're not connected.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
So I think that's basically it. So in terms of what do we say? Raising daughters while healing yourself. And
yeah.
again, we're talking a lot to grown mothers and daughters because that's
Yeah.
our relationship dynamic. But I definitely think there's aspects of this you can bring in even when your daughters are young, really talking to them about, I'm your mom, but I'm also a person, and I feel
Mm,
these things, or,
yeah.
just really starting those conversations young to where they get like, oh, okay. They don't just sort of buy into the cultural expectation of what a mom is and what that means and doesn't mean and how she should act or what have you. But that there's room for you to have a different kind of relationship as well.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
mm,
Great topic.
yeah, super fun.
Yeah.
So, again, talked about the book already. We have chapters on all different kinds of topics. I will say that career and finding your purpose and your passion, to relationship, finding your
Mm,
soulmate, having a great relationship, marriage and money. So there's many topics in the book, but Mothers and Daughters is definitely one of them, and it is kind of the core through line of the book because it's stories from our relationship, right,
relationship.
Gigi?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you
And
enjoyed this
beautifully written.
episode, yeah, I think you'll
Yeah.
enjoy the
Yeah.
book as well. We so appreciate all of you who have been buying copies and buying them
Yeah.
for friends and leaving us reviews. So thank you, thank you, thank you. It's an honor. And we'll see you all in the next episode.
All right. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
That's our episode for today, but let's not make it the end of our love story. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and think of some women in your life you'd love to share it with. And if you want to learn more about our events and programs, visit wayofthemuse.com. See you next time.